Welcome, folks, to another edition of the Coaches Connect call. I'm Coach Jeremy. We have our agenda already up and running. Some folks are joining us and filtering in. Uh, and our agenda for today, our first post is already up, and it's from Coach Andrew Matthias, and they're looking for a little bit of feedback on how do you deal with the haters. So for folks who can't see or are unable to click on the link just yet, Coach Andrew wants to know uh, or has a scenario where they have uh, a friend, we'll call them an acquaintance, a curious onlooker, potentially a hater. We don't know this person that well, who regularly comments on some of their content in a way that is maybe not super conducive to the conversation. Maybe some of you have faced this in the past. I know as a person who is responsible for moderating a lot of the discussion on PN social channels, so particularly on our Instagram and Facebook pages, I often moderate some of the comments that we get, and some of them are not always super helpful. So Coach Andrew wants to know, how do you take time, or what is your strategy in responding to those folks? Feel free to read the comments as well to Coach Andrew if you would like to, but I'm curious to see what people do here. What is your either your knee-jerk reaction or your experienced reaction to the scenario?
Jeremy, I'm still getting just like it says I'm not a member of the group, but I was in there earlier today, so I know I am. Is anyone else having trouble with the page?
Uh,
I mean, I saw the post that you're talking about earlier today, but
cool.
might be something on my end. I'm not sure.
More than likely, it's just the way that I'm sharing the link. So what we'll do is I will just share screen, and then you can take a look from there. And then I'll give you about 30 seconds to do a quick read through. That's not the screen I want to share. Should be this screen here. So you should be able to see it now. So if you've been in a similar situation, I'm curious to know, how do you respond as a coach who is trying to share their message and getting some feedback that is, we'll call it, less than helpful?
Jeremy?
Yes.
Yeah, I read the post, so I understand. So they know each other like 9 years already, like maybe friends, maybe acquaintance for 9 years, and then um the person post the commented on Andrew for a while, and his new identities is not aligned with the person the commander knows, right? I understand.
More or less, yes.
Yeah. So actually, I have the same experience recently, and to be honest, my first feeling is really annoying.
That's fair. That is a
Yeah,
very reasonable response.
yeah. We know the person also commented many times. She very active on my Facebook. Some is really contribution, is I
Mhm,
like it, but some is really against this what I wrote, and we
mhm.
were friends for a while. We know each other in Vietnam, and we studied together in Australia, and then she made me didn't sleep for one night. I said, what I should do, what did I do to her, why she hated me? We That's it, like, why did she write that? So, and after one night didn't sleep, I tried to reply on her comment on Facebook very nicely, like,
Mhm.
because the I understand when I commented on her reply on her comment on Facebook, that means my follower see that comment. And
Yes.
I try to be neutral. When I reply her comment on my post, I try to be neutral first, neutral voice,
Hmm.
try to be calm. Before I do that, I try to inhale and exhale like meditation,
Hmm.
and neutral writing, try to like science backed, not
Yes.
my feeling, explain based on what I know, science about the point of view. So
Hmm.
not my view, is that I know from what I learn and study, not my own opinion. One. And
Yes.
then if and that happens, she keep follow up with her feeling like something blah blah. And then next day after I didn't sleep, I wrote her the long messenger privately.
Hmm.
Explain to her, I'm a mom, and to build a business on the social media is really hard for me. I spread my feeling first. So
Hmm.
I work very hard to be consistent, post on Facebook to show who I am, my new business as my coach. So I hope you understand my role now, and not just about my opinion. Is my business. So if you want to have a feedback, please send me privately message,
Hmm.
not on Facebook. It's a Facebook. It's not more professional and business, not my perspective personally anymore. So after that, and if you need any help, I'm willing to help you through messages privately. And after that, she didn't comment anything,
Hmm.
and I don't hate her anymore. So that's my experience.
That is very useful experience, and there's a couple things there I think are useful from a strategic standpoint that you can utilize frequently. So if you come into this scenario again, or if other folks here find themselves in a similar situation, there's probably a couple of things that we can take from Mia's example, as well as from Andrew's example here. So uh, in certain contexts, depending on what their response is, like if they are refuting your ideas, so they are not making personal attacks towards you, they are disagreeing, even if they're like kind of like violently disagreeing with what you share, that is a potential opportunity, as Mia pointed out, that hey, my this is a sense where I can, or an instance where I can educate my followers. So it's a teachable moment essentially. And what that means is they have a disagreement on something I said. Cool. I can go into a little bit further detail here. Again, understanding the limitations of social media, like under an Instagram comment or a Facebook comment, I'm probably not going to write several paragraphs. One, that's just like not an effective use of my time. Also, it's just not a great medium to communicate some more complicated concepts. So I can use this as a teachable moment. I can also spin this off to become a piece of content itself. So this is my post for Monday. I can go on Tuesday, Wednesday, take some time, look at what they pointed out, and then hey, I can make a follow-up post to this. And Instagram, I believe, allows you to do this with like with remixing and stuff like that. You can respond to specific comments, and you can put it kind of like within the video frame itself, and then have a larger discussion, sharing your point of view. Again, making this a larger teachable moment for more of your audience. So that is certainly a professional way to handle this. Uh, Another thing that you pointed out there is like it's very common to have an emotional response to this. Uh, Very similar to what it would be like if you were walking down the street and someone was aggressive towards you unexpectedly for no reason. Your body would likely respond very similar as going into fight or flight mode. So feeling stressed and feeling that rush of catecholamines and hormonal dump, and you're just like, I gotta rip this person's head off. So taking a second there to say, you know what, let me see if I can respond as a professional. Can I turn this into a teachable moment? If yes, those are a few ways to respond. And I'm really glad that you mentioned it's like I'm taking the emotional aspect out of this and I'm responding based on the ideas and not trying to kind of like defend my character or anything like that initially, just in that public setting. If you find that they are not refuting your ideas, or they're not kind of making like counter claims, and there's no teachable moment to be had here, you can also go the route of this person does not deserve to be in my community. I don't deserve to have this reaction, and just remove them. that is also a perfectly fine thing that you can do. You have control over that, and it is worthwhile to not spend a whole bunch of your time uh, to try and make every moment into a teachable moment. I think it's a high-minded ideal, but it's not always a practical solution. And especially if you're losing sleep over something like this, hitting that block and delete button, super rewarding, especially when someone has gone out of their way to be a dick to you and written this whole huge paragraph of why you're bad and your ideas are bad. You can sit there and say, well, click, click, and their their effort is gone forever. And that feels kind of satisfying sometimes. So definitely multiple strategies on how to work with this. As Mia also pointed out, you can also have an opportunity to call this person in and say, hey, I'm going to send you a private message. If there's something that you want to chat about, if there's something that you feel like I'm missing here, feel free to let me know. It may be a moment where you yourself learn some valuable inside tips, and then you can again share that with your community. There's, I think, nothing more valuable than a coach who can learn from others and admit when they have gaps in their knowledge or mistakes. Most times in PN coaching, we're often suggesting that folks do not appear as experts in the field unless you have some sort of deeper level expertise aside from your PN certification. But something that you could do that is quite useful is saying to your larger audience, hey, here's something that a belief that I used to hold. Here's something that I recently learned that challenged this belief. Here's how I integrated this new information. So again, spinning that into new content, a teachable moment that not only serves your community, but also you. So 3 kind of ideas there that you can take from this. 1, feel free to immediately hit the block and delete button if it's not worth your time. If there's a teachable moment, either for you to educate that person and your community, or for you to receive some education and integrate that into your approach going forward. Those are 3 things that I would personally suggest can be quite useful. Mia, thank you for sharing your insight there and your feedback. One thing about putting yourself out there is that it is a little bit intimidating. It can feel a little bit scary, but knowing that it's like worst case scenario is I'm gonna block a random stranger online. It's not that bad. And then also, if there's an idea that I share and I get some feedback on it that is critical, I could potentially use that to help others, or it may be valuable for me to update my own understanding. So a lot of upside, minimal downside here. So hopefully that encourages people to continue to share online.
Can I share? I like the idea about if that's a chain to educate the people follow a coach, that is a chain to write out. That's a great point. I also thought about that because the Facebook have a like the um algorithm. If we engage more with the post, they will um put the post like the top. Um, so that's a good to engage. So I try to engage as much as I can when I post on the Facebook. So that's a good question to ask whether that's a opportunity for me or for coach to engage or educate the followers or explain more. That's I use that technical the strategy too. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that.
Yeah, and I mean, I like how you really put it. It's like first, I had to take a second. I had to breathe a little bit. I had to sleep on it, even though I lost a little bit of sleep. It's often useful to kind of like step away and think for a second, as opposed to go with the knee-jerk reaction of responding to be defensive. So I'm really glad to see that you take that very professional approach and think of trying to find the larger teachable moment. Uh, the other thing also keeping in the back pocket is knowing that, hey, sometimes it's just not worth your time and energy, especially if someone is engaging in bad faith. Uh, and sometimes you can see that right off the bat based on how they phrase their question, where they're trying to make it more of a gotcha as opposed to they're genuinely asking a question. You also can always reserve the right to say, I don't feel like engaging today. No, thank you, trolls, and then block, delete, move on.
Sorry, can I share one more point?
Please.
And because my experience out. And when I talked to her, I figured out when she rolled out the hatred method like this, and not because of me, because she had the struggle to find out her value.
Mm.
So that's why he's very confusing and very irritating when I post something. So sometimes it's a problem is a person, not us. So think about that way too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is uh, very common in terms of the things that people find issue with. It's often based on like kind of their own experience, and it's just like I just happen to be the messenger here. You felt like uh, I would maybe back down from this, or maybe they felt comfortable like engaging here. So yeah, just jumping into their DMs and letting them know, hey, I saw what you posted. I'm happy to engage with it. Uh, I don't take kindly to just like drive by attacks and then nothing happens here, but we can have this deeper conversation, especially if you feel confident in the topic that you're speaking on, where it's like, yeah, I do actually have some deeper knowledge and understanding here. So I'm happy to continue this conversation, but they might actually be like, oh no, I just read this thing online and I felt a little froggy, so I was gonna jump. But yeah, very glad to see that that was a useful learning experience for you. And hopefully Coach Andrew and other folks will benefit from that as well. Let's see if we could pull up another conversation here. Cool. So I'm going to share my screen again. Take a look at this conversation from Coach Bernadette. Hmm. Nope, that's not what I want to share again. Come on, Zoom. Be my friend today. There we go. So this should be the correct one. Take a second, give it a read, and let us know your thoughts. How would you proceed as a coach here, working with a client who is in the onboarding phase of their GLP-1 medication, and it looks like they've just increased their dosage? So any coaches here either experience working with clients with GLP-1s, uh, any personal experience, anything that you would add to this conversation? Anything that you would even echo in this conversation? I think there's a pretty good answer so far, but Vicky, what do you got?
Well, I haven't read the post. I was trying to find, but I mean, what's the specific question about working with them?
Just to give you a summary of it, so Coach Bernadette is working with a client who recently started using Monjaro. The dose just increased, and now they really aren't hungry. So that
Okay.
is what they said specifically. Now they really aren't hungry. They set a
Yeah.
timer to remember to eat lunch and I suggested protein smoothies may be a good supplement to ensure they're eating enough calories and prioritizing protein. Does anyone have any other recommendations I can share with them?
Yeah. I mean, I've heard, similar stories um,
Mhm.
through social media, but it's definitely a problem. And
Mhm.
I kind of liken it to like as athletes who I work with, and Jeremy, you're an athlete as well. Sometimes we don't feel hunger, but we know we
Mhm.
need to eat. So it's a
Yep.
similar kind of thing. So
Mhm.
sometimes you have to, in PN we learn hard that to listen to your cues, but there are instances when you have to override those cues.
Mhm.
When we need to recover after hard efforts, when we're taking medication that makes us not hungry, and we know we need to eat. So I would worry less about the what, though I know there are specifics about the medication, more
Mhm.
protein, that kind of stuff, but just more about setting timer, like, okay, yep, I don't feel hungry, but I do need to eat. And
Mhm.
when feeling hunger is different than feeling sick when you eat, right? I don't.
So yeah, so actually that's kind of where I was going to go with this one as well. So two things that I would point out. One, uh, I would recommend folks read the response from Coach Courtney Cole. I don't know if it's Colbert or Colbert, but they're an RD, and they essentially say one, have them check with their doctor. Having zero hunger is probably an issue here, and it may require some adjustment of medication. Uh, but additionally to that, what Vicky was saying as well, being able to get them to kind of just like route back to the appropriate support, so doctor first, and then figure out ways to have them have adequate nutrients. Because one of the things that we see with GLP-1 medication is kind of like finding that Goldilocks zone where there's less hunger leading to less overeating, but zero hunger can also have its own negative consequences where weight is lost too quickly, and percentage of muscle mass or percentage of body weight loss coming from muscle mass or muscle tissue is also increased, and that is something that we want to minimize as well with our folks. So making sure that, and it sounds like that's something that Coach Bernadette was already aware of, therefore their strategy of liquid calories coming from protein shakes, but they would likely want to include in that conversation having a conversation with their physician. So client goes to physician and potentially gets their dosage modified. I personally, like you, Vicky, would also want to know, what does it mean when they say now they really aren't hungry? Does that mean like they're never hungry? Has it been several days and like they haven't felt hunger? Or is it their hunger cues are just diminished and it's easier to forget to eat? So from that strategic standpoint of like forgetting to eat, that's certainly something we can help with. But if hunger is reaching a level where it's like they can't really eat anything, eating makes them nauseous, that is something where it's like probably get additional support here. So getting some clarity in some of those terms there, also understanding that, yeah, we're getting this message secondhand, so not from the client themselves, but if we were the coach, asking a few more questions. And then if we have concerns as the coach, then our responsibility is to help them get the appropriate support, and that starts with their doctor. But yeah, really useful response here from Coach Courtney. So if you have an opportunity, I would suggest reading that post and that comment. I think also PN shared in one of our, I believe it was either Smartest Coach in the Room or Live Better Project. There was a recent email that we sent out regarding coaching and GLP-1s and what does that landscape look like moving forward. I think it's something that coaches are definitely going to need to be aware of. We're a few years into this trend now, and it's become quite apparent that it is not just a trend. It is going to be likely an evolving part of the coaching space, and increasing your knowledge in this area about how to work with those clients will be quite useful as a business practice, but also as just a coach who stays up to date on evolving information and evolving conversations. So feel free to take a look at that resource from PN. I think it's really useful. And then if you have any questions, like Coach Bernadette here, feel free to bring them into the community, and let's see if we can get more insight from some of our members who are maybe a little bit more well-versed in some of the literature and the practical applications here, like our RDs. Any questions before we move on to our next topic? Nope, cool. Well, let me pull up the next one. Hopefully, it's showing me a blank screen here, but hopefully y'all can see this one. Again, from Coach Bernadette. Can I get a thumbs up if you can see my shared screen? Cool, thank you, Doris. Yeah, again, from Coach Bernadette, who is busy in the coaching trenches. Hopefully they see this in the future. But they are asking, coming up on last session with one of their clients, this will be the first time ending one-on-one coaching after completing a 3-month coaching package with this person. And then they're asking, can you share any ideas you love to include in last sessions? So for experienced coaches here who've potentially done this before, or for coaches who are kind of just starting their business and creating some of their business systems, what are some things that you would include when working, when finishing or potentially finishing your engagement with the client? While you think this one over, I just finished working with a client on Friday. We actually finished working together. Our session on Friday was exactly 2 years to the day from when we first started working together. So that was a nice little surprise. Uh, and at the end of it, they asked me for my head measurements and favorite color. And I think they're knitting me a hat. Otherwise, I'm not really sure what they're going to do with that information. So hopefully I receive a hat at some point in the future. But yeah, there are definitely a few things that I would encourage folks to do as part of the structure of that session, just like we have a little bit more structure at the beginning of our coaching sessions. How do you structure the end of your session or your final session with the client?
Well, again, I didn't read the post. I'm very guilty today. I'm getting ready to go for a trip. But you know, I mean, always talk about lessons learned for them, but also for me as a coach, you know. So I always ask for constructive feedback. Be careful with that word, right? Constructive feedback as opposed to constructive criticism. And that's always valuable. Like things, what might have helped more. I mean, that kind of stuff. And also just how can I help them move forward on the right step? You know, are there things that, today in this call, things that I can do to put you on the right step forward. And then of course, wish them luck. You always want to leave the door open for them to come back. So.
That is incredibly useful. And it reminds me of something. I think the first time I may have said this in that session was I always let my clients know, hey, anytime you feel like engaging in coaching again, by all means, my door is open to you. Or if you know people like you who you think would benefit from coaching, I enjoyed working with you, so more of you would be better for me. But one thing I said to them was, please never feel like signing up for coaching again feels like failure or feels like weakness. Asking for help is always universally a sign of strength. It means that you're aware of your needs and you are actively making changes to try and get the support you're required to make further changes. So that is something that I don't think I've ever said that before, but it really resonated with them. And it was something that I was like, yes, felt very heartfelt. And I truly believe it. Anytime we're asking for help, we are in a space where we are deeply aware of kind of our current patterns and understand that it would be useful or I'm more likely to make changes if I have the appropriate support. So being the appropriate support for someone always feels really good as well.
That's why we as coaches often have coaches, right?
Exactly.
A, we see the value, and B, we know that's not a character flaw when occasionally we need support or accountability or whatever it is we need at the moment. So.
And so often I think when I think back to like initial coaching sessions, a lot of folks will come to my door feeling like they're at a place in their story where it's like it's been months and or years of neglecting an issue and trying things that didn't feel like they worked or feeling like they were losing ground consistently before they finally reached out for help. And one of the feelings that I try and nail in that first session is a feeling of, hey, you've made it to the right place, and giving them enough of a view of what we're likely to work on and how we'll likely have a positive outcome for them, so that when we finish that first session, they feel much more relaxed, like, yes, I feel like I've done at least one good thing in favor of getting on a better track. And giving them that reminder in that final session of, as Vicky pointed out, hey, here, remember these are the conversations that we had when we started. Here's how you've been able to demonstrate use of the tools that we've talked about. Here's why I strongly believe that you'll be able to continue to use those tools. and then finishing with that reminder of just like when we first started, if this is the right move for you to come back, please feel free and comfortable to contact me again. I'm always in your corner. Curious to know anything else that folks share or institute as part of that conversation for that final session. So Vicky, you were mentioning kind of like asking for feedback. I tried to take it one step further, and I'm just gonna make sure that I'm not sharing anyone's private info. No, I think we're good. So this is my feedback form. So at the end of the session, I typically send this at the penultimate session, so maybe one before the final session, just so I can give them a reminder if they haven't already filled it out. But I ask similar questions to kind of what Vicky shared and just capture it in a feedback form so that I can review it later. I code it in the way that it's like, hey, you doing this is actually really helpful for me. It helps the next person who comes through my door, and it helps me to improve my coaching and understand where I can improve my coaching. But it also gives them a space to kind of reflect on where they were in their journey. I could use this. I'd let them know it's like I might use this in marketing efforts in the future. I haven't yet to this date for no real reason. I just haven't felt the need to do it. But if I wanted to make more of a marketing push, this is probably a resource that I'd be very thankful to have, especially because I updated the form at some point in the last year and it temporarily deleted all of the responses, and that felt not great. But somehow I think they've mostly made their way back, so I'm happy to have that. It is certainly something I would encourage you to create for yourself. If you want the link to see what my form looks like, feel free. I can post it in the chat box, and then feel free to take it, make it into your own, and use it as necessary. But having an exit form, super useful for not only you, but also for the client to help reflect on their experience. I think also at the end of it, what I actually added was a new offer that I was working on. So letting folks know that, hey, as a thank you for you being here, if you have someone that you enjoy, I'm going to give you, if you send them my way and they sign up for 1 month of coaching, I will send you a nice thank you in the form of a gift certificate or cash, or I can't remember what it was. And I'll also take off the equivalent amount from their first month of coaching. So I bake that into my coaching acquisition costs for anyone who's taken the Coaching Business Kickstarter course. Typically, I know my numbers that it amounts to, I think, about 3% of my overall spend with a client. And I think that's pretty worthwhile that the other 97% is almost pure profit. So I'll keep you updated on how this offer is doing. But for right now, it's something that exists here. And you can use it as an idea for coaching offers that you want to offer to your people.
Coach Jeremy, can I ask you?
Yes.
And you said on the previous part about referral.
Mhm.
So if the person refer to another client, so they will get $25.
Yeah. So the way that my offer works is,
Okay.
so let's say Mia, you and I have worked together. You were happy with the work that we did. You're like, I know several people who would benefit from working with you. If you give me their contact info, we have a conversation, they decide to sign up for coaching, then you will automatically get $25, and that
Okay.
person will get $25 off of their first month of coaching. So
Okay, got it. That means
yeah,
referral for you. Okay, got it.
yeah. So my client will get something as a thank you for their doing the legwork, and then the person they refer also gets a bonus. So
Okay.
in any type of offer that I try and make as a coach, I always think of like, how can we make this a win-win? So there's three
Okay.
parties involved. I want to make sure that everyone gets a little something for doing work.
Okay, got it. Thank
Yeah.
you. That's
Yeah, you
great.
obviously don't.
I would love to get that form so I can learn from you. Thanks
Yeah,
a lot
sure.
for sharing.
I'll send a link in the chat box shortly.
So this is sort of like a sidebar, I guess, but
Please.
as as you know, I work with cyclists, and for some of them, this is the end of their cycling road season. So I send an email about the reflections for the 2025. Things that went well, things that we might be able to improve on, things you learned, your highlights, those kind of things.
Mhm.
And I just found that the process was so valuable for them to do that reflection, and then so valuable for me as the coach to plan the next year. So I'm sure there's a way to tie that in with nutrition coaching that continues, but just that self-reflection, and then that sharing that with your coach, helps you both move forward in the right directions, or in some directions, or just was super helpful. Just went through that yesterday, so yeah.
So as part of that kind of self-reflection, do you ask them goals in terms of like, hey, either in conjunction or outside of your cycling goals, are there any future goals that I can support you with? And then kind of share like, hey, here's other ways that I can support you.
Yeah, well, certainly there are things about cycling that's not just related to their workouts.
Mhm.
There's sleep, there's stress, there's nutrition. So there's certainly, and I was pleased to find how much they learned about nutrition during the process, because
Mhm.
we're constantly learning how to feed ourselves on the bike, but also off the bike, to support our athletic endeavors. Yeah, and learning a little bit about how their stress affects their performance. It's because stress is stress, and it's allostatic, and all of that. So just some of their takeaways related to all those other things affecting the performance is not just how my legs feel on that day.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not sure that's exactly answering your question, but
just thinking about, you asked the question kind of like, how can I tie this into like future coaching? You may want to ask them, uh, hey, based on what you learned this year, here are some like additional ways that I can support you. If there's, if do you have a plan for the off season? If not, feel free to reach out and then give them kind of a call to action, a way to link that back to additional coaching. And then you
we
can,
have off season.
okay.
And we coach through off season, yeah, because
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, we definitely encourage people to take from 1 to 3 weeks off the bike completely, but
Yeah.
even then we're this is mental and physical break, and and what that looks like for we talk about what that might look like for them. And it's hard for people who are cyclists to get off the bike, trust me, it's
Yeah.
just a struggle, even though if they see the benefit. And then the off season itself is about building, and so there's it's pretty structured.
Yeah, I've worked with a few endurance athletes. Getting them to stop
Yeah,
their endurance training for any amount of time is a difficult conversation, we'll
it is.
say.
Yeah. Well, and we all know, no matter your athletic level, or your movement level, rest is probably harder than movement most of the time, especially for people who are, kind of addicted to movement. So yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a form that you share with folks, or just kind of a script that you use with them and you want some feedback on it, feel free to post it in the PN community or bring it to a future call, and then you can get some roundtable discussion going here. And maybe there are some additional brains who can help you fill out that conversation in a way that makes it a little bit more appealing to circle back to additional coaching once the season is done, or to reframe coaching in a way that sets them up for success in the next season.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, no worries. Uh, cool. I mean, that was all of the things I had on the agenda for today. We flew through it a little bit faster than usual, didn't sidetrack it for once. So hopefully the coaches who were tagged and had some comments, they'll see it in the near future. Any final comments before we sign off for today? No, cool. I guess we'll leave it there, and I'll get to the tennis court 15 minutes earlier. So, thank you, gang. Hope to see you in the next one.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Jeremy. Bye.